So 10.4 is all about social reforms and things that are going to change the country, some for the better. In 1842, there was a movement to perfect people and that of society. There's this growing urban middle class with women at the very center, and these women have a very strict set of moral codes that need to be enforced. And so the first social reform that we're going to talk about is that of temperance. Temperance is the elimination of alcohol from American society. The biggest of the reform movements, it reduced and eliminated the consumption of alcohol. Dr. Benjamin Rush said the excessive use of alcohol harmed someone both physically and mentally. And so all social problems that are in the United States at that time are due to alcohol. There is a gentleman, as pictured here, Lyman Beecher, who is a minister, who wanted to create what is known as the benevolent empire that targets drunkenness, adultery, prostitution, and even crime. In 1826, they succeed in creating the American Temperance Society. Within 12 years, over 1.5 million members are part of the American Temperance Society. In 1833, the American Temperance Union will be formed, and they're going to seek out the elimination of alcohol on a legal standpoint. They're the ones who eventually, in the 1920s, will get prohibition. They're going to push for no Sunday mail, no Sunday recreation, and all stores to be closed on Sunday. And they're going to get this for quite some time, up until the 1980s. Now, the next form of reform is in the form of prisons. This lovely lady here is Dorothea Dix. She traveled the country visiting asylums and prisons. And a lot of asylums and prisons were exactly the same institution. She's going to find that prisons have horrible conditions. There's a lack of proper nutrition, lack of space, there's no contact with sunlight in some of them, and really was a breeding ground for brutality and neglect. So in 1843, she's going to send what she found to the Massachusetts legislature, and this is going to prompt change in the way they run things. And eventually, not only does it change in Massachusetts, but other states as it ripples out. And one of the first things they did is they separated those who were considered to be insane from those who were just criminals. So asylum reform is going to come out of this. In the 1800s, you could be institutionalized for a wide variety of things. Wives and daughters who did not obey their husbands or fathers, if you were an alcoholic, depressed, if you were angry, women who were in menopause, women who were in postpartum depression after having a baby. Basically, anyone who goes against the norm. They all could be institutionalized. So it's going to update what asylums have as well. The next reform is women's rights. Catherine Beecher, who is the daughter of Lyman Beecher, she's going to write a book called The Cult of Domesticity, which basically says women should accept their role in the home, stay home, be quiet, have babies, and don't really, do anything against the system. College is very rare for women. Women who weren't considered really to be citizens didn't have the ability to have wills, no contracts, they couldn't sue anyone, and they really needed their husband's permission for just about everything. And so a lot of women are going to get together for the first Women's Rights Convention. Let me move me out of the way so you can see them. So Lucretia Mott and Elizabeth Cady Stanton are going to have the first Women's Rights Convention in Seneca Falls, New York. July 19th through the 20th in 1848. The women's rights movement grew out of abolitionism. Men who were opposed to slavery were also opposed to women's rights, however. They're going to write the Declaration of Sentiments, which listed all the grievances that women had against society, and mainly the right to vote, that they felt if they had the right to vote to participate in government and politics, they could make change for themselves. And so women's rights are really going to push and spur quite a few things. The next reform movement is school reform. Horace Mann, pictured here, is the Secretary of State for Secretary of Education for Massachusetts. He eventually will become Secretary of Education for the United States. There are few educational opportunities before 1820. Mann wanted better equipped schoolhouses. He wanted a longer school year, not just 4 months out of the year during the winter, but longer school years, higher pay for teachers, and a wider curriculum. His main principle was, there are 6 main principles to his education thought. 1, the public should be educated. So no more ignorance in public. Everybody should learn to read and know the basics of education. 2, the public should be paid for, public schools should be paid for by everyone. So property taxes, in many, many areas, property taxes pay for the local school as well. 3, children from a variety of backgrounds should be allowed in that school because they can learn from each other as well as from the teacher. And because there's a wide variety of people from backgrounds, number 4, education should not be based on religion, because you could have Jewish, Muslim, Buddhist, atheist, Christians all in the same school system. So you wouldn't want to make it difficult for one group over the others. And so there should be no religion in school. 5, a free society is best for learning. So he was an abolitionist. He did agree that there should not be slavery. And then 6, that well-trained professional teachers. You, not just because you look smart or you sound smart, but you have to prove that you can teach what you say. And the uneducated in the 1800s were more likely to be poor, more likely to be unhealthy, less involved in politics, just simply because they did not know. And so he's going to promote the school system to make things better. With all of these social reforms, brings out the creation of utopian societies. The first one, Anne Lee, right here, she's going to help create the Shakers. Founded in England in 1770, Anne Lee wanted to create heaven on earth. According to her visions, the Shakers were to live by 4 basic tenets. 1, they should live communally. They should all live together. 2, they should be celibate. So no men and women do not touch. So they're not creating any more Shakers. For a long time, they adopted children into the Shaker community. But in the 1960s, there was a federal law that came out that said religious groups cannot adopt children. 3rd, they must regularly confess their sins. And then 4, they must live separately from the outside world. So living all together, not having any children, and they're not talking to anybody. So basically, it's just word of mouth. And they would come and learn from that. In 1774, Anne Lee and her husband bought 200 acres in the United States, and they're going to build their first utopian community. By 1830, there are 200 settlements with over 4,000 members. Unfortunately, today there is less than 5 of them. There's only a couple Shakers truly left. They live in Sabbath Day Lake, which is in New England. So you could go see them. When all the Shakers do die, the community will be turned into a World Heritage Site, and the money they have in the bank will take care of that property. But there are a couple Shakers still left, but they are dwindling fast. Other communities that will be formed. So this top picture right here, this is Brook Farm, 1841. George Ripley is a minister and a transcendentalist. He created a think tank southwest of Boston called Brook Farm. And it's just a lot of individuals, very smart people coming here and just thinking about society, creating societies doing well. And so a fire burned down the main building, and after about 10 years, and everybody left. Now the next group is Oneida. Oneida, they make silverware. John Humphrey Noyes in 1836 gathered a group of perfectionists in Putney, Vermont. He believed in complex marriage. So when you join the Oneida complex, you marry everyone in the community. In 1851, they begin making silverware to support the community, and Oneida is one of the best silverware companies in the United States today. In the beginning, they had about 200 members. They're going to promote free love. They're going to ban private property. So basically, it's communal living. Everybody lives together. And they're still around today because they still make silverware. So it is a society that we have. So now what you're going to move on to is the last PowerPoint, which is the anti-slavery movement for Section 10.